we've ever achieved previously. Thank you.
Good morning. When Brian invited me to make a presentation for this meeting, it took me about 30 seconds to agree to do it. Basically, it's like going to Outlook to your calendar, seeing if the day is clear at all, and then saying yes. Part of that was my excitement to be on a panel with Tony and Barbara, whose work I respect greatly. I think we have some things in common. We all focus on the whole child. We all bring a lifespan developmental perspective to the work that we engage in, and we all think about the importance of cutting across various systems. But my real excitement, I think, was I'm based in Chicago at the University of Illinois at Chicago and at Castle, and it was great to have Brian coming back to Chicago and Illinois. And there's a boundary span, I think, that can go on now that is really important. And if a Brian with a cross-systemic child welfare perspective, and if I with really an educationally focused but still cross-system perspective can integrate, because we all use different types of language, sometimes different terms, slightly different frameworks. But to me, as I look at it, there's really 80-90% overlap in the messages that you're going to hear from all of us today, even though we cut across different systems. Okay, and I think that that's very important, and we can make a difference in Chicago, we can make a difference in Illinois, we can make a difference in the nation. I really believe if we can work over the next decade, 2 decades, to really bring this work together in powerful ways. Every community must ask the question, what do we want our children to be, to know, and to be able to do when they graduate? And from high school, or, we can talk up through the age of 25 if we want, but trying to think of this from a school perspective, you come up with standards. You need to be able to specify what children should know and be able to do. And we've done that a lot with the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning in collaboration with Illinois, with Chicago Public School, states across the country, trying to think about this in terms of developmentally based standards in the realm of social and emotional development. The question that a community might ask could be a little broader, but still we're looking at what we want. And if you talk to parents, if you talk to people in schools, if you talk to business leaders and say, what competencies do you want? Some of these are academic and technical competencies, but a lot have to do with character, with problem solving, with good self-esteem, with an ability to work together with diverse groups. Many of these things are social and emotional variables. And one of the big messages, I think, in the last 30 years of research is many of these social and emotional competencies can be taught, they can be developed in systematic ways, and it's important that the world of policy and practice really catch up significantly with a lot of the work that's been going on for years in terms of demonstration of how to enhance kids' social and emotional and academic development in systematic, evidence-based ways. Brian talked about more recent days. We've been doing work in this area. For me, that's been like the last 38 years are my most recent days. I discovered my question, I like to say, in 1976 when my advisor from graduate school, I went to a convention and heard him speak. He said, there are too many kids who have problems, and there's never going to be enough professional resources to help those kids who have problems. We need, although those are important, we need to think about how to promote positive social and emotional competence and cognitive competence from the start. How do schools and families and communities work together to promote positive outcomes in kids in that way? And I heard the question. I said, okay, that's what I'm going to study for the rest of my life. And I've been doing it since 1976. And I'm going to summarize all my learning in this slide. One thing is it's important to focus on the family. Every kid needs either strong family functioning or support or sustained relationships with caring adults, a mentor, something in one way or another, adult support and guidance is critical for kids' development. Quality education and connecting kids with their schools, feeling that school is meaningful, that they can and relevant, and they can succeed in school is another key variable to predict positive outcomes. Making communities safe and supportive, having high quality out of school time, also critical. These are protective factors and promotive factors for kids and their development. And finally, providing children and youth with opportunities to build their social and emotional competence. If we would come together and just accomplish these 7 things, provide this for all kids, the number of successful, thriving children in our society would be enormous. Now, within Illinois, there are social and emotional learning standards that have been developed, and they've been around now for since 2005, for 10 years. Okay, these are, along with math standards, social studies standards, English language, arts and science standards. Illinois was the trailblazing state that developed social and emotional learning standards from preschool to high school. Other states, we've done a scan at Castle at all 50 states. All 50 states have social and emotional development standards in preschool. But what happens in K to 12? There are 3 states now, Illinois, Kansas, and Pennsylvania, who actually have K to 12 social and emotional development standards. Other states tend to integrate it in the context of other academic standards or health education standards and the like. But one of the things that I think is happening nationally is there is this trend to recognize that social, emotional, and cognitive development are all intertwined. They can't be disconnected, and it's important to integrate instruction and pedagogy and curriculum in ways that enhance kids' engagement in social and emotional development. But it's also necessary to be conscious about what the core skills are that you want to enhance and what kind of developmentally appropriate strategies and socioculturally appropriate strategies do you want to do to accomplish that. So Castle has identified 5 competencies, but different people have different models. But to know yourself, to be self-aware, to manage yourself, to have empathy, to be socially aware, to have good relationship skills, and to be a good decision maker about yourself and about others. These are core competencies. Some people call them intrapersonal, interpersonal, and cognitive competencies, but we tried 20 years ago to develop a model, and then in Illinois, the model has been extended to think about what are the personal skills, the social skills and competencies and dispositions, and the cognitive competencies that need to be integrated so somebody can be successful in school and life. The model is to think about how schools and families and communities can work together to promote social and emotional learning. And there are some people within the school system who say, well, that's good because if social and emotional competence can be a mediator to academic performance, improved academic performance, great, then it has a place in schools. But there are others who think more broadly about what is school all about. It's to educate kids who are knowledgeable, responsible, caring, contributing citizens, who are good workers, who are healthy. So the SEL conceptual framework is a broader framework of thinking about what quality education and what quality development of kids across all systems should be. We've done major studies. This is from a meta-analysis that Joe Durlak and I and graduate students at Loyola and University of Illinois at Chicago did it. It was a 5-year project. Again, here's the 5 years summarized in one slide. When you have social and emotional development programs, and we looked at 213 experimental control group studies with pre and post data, with looking at the impact of these programs on kids' functioning, we find that there are significant, substantial increases in kids' social and emotional skill development, in their attitudes about themselves and about school, in their pro-social behavior, reductions in conduct problems and emotional distress. But the big finding for us, which is important to emphasize, is these programs that focus on kids' social and emotional development also led to improvement in kids' achievement test score performance, an 11 percentile point increase in academic achievement test performance. If you look at some of the variables, and this is interesting, we've applied this to during school, we've applied it to after school programs, and we like the acronym SAFE. But for a while, we talked about the ingredients of effective programs, and we called it FISA originally, because we said if you focus on skill development, and you have time and you realize that's what you're doing, focusing on social and emotional competence development, and you're clear on the targeting, you're explicit about what skills you want to see developed, and you provide sequential instruction in how to enhance these things, and there are active learning experiences so students can learn the skills but apply them in real life and see their relevance. These are the ingredients that are in a lot of the most effective programs that exist in the field of social and emotional learning. We've extended our work over the last couple of years. CASEL, in collaboration with several foundations, has introduced, we call it a national initiative in social and emotional learning. Part of that has been to work with large urban school districts, but we also work with suburban and rural school districts as well. One of the messages that I would give is that social and emotional learning is important for all kids across the board. We are working now in a multi-site collaboration with Anchorage, Alaska, Austin, Texas, Chicago, Cleveland, Nashville, Oakland, Sacramento, Reno, Nevada, Washoe County, working on systemic social and emotional learning. What does it mean to work with the central office, to work with school and school teams, to work with teachers, to work with student support, to work with families and communities, thinking about how do we make this a priority in all the work. And this is a major undertaking that's being externally evaluated by the American Institutes for Research. But the core aspect of this is, what is the systemic classroom instruction that should take place? How do you support the climate? How do you get schools and families and communities working together? How do you coordinate these efforts with mental health and health services? And how do you think about after-school and community activities? So the goal with this kind of approach is basically saying kids' social and emotional competence, their preparation not just for college or post-secondary education, but for careers, for citizenship, that it requires thinking seriously and intentional ways about promoting both their social and emotional competence and their academic competence. So my two take-home messages, one comes from Franklin Roosevelt, who was wise about this more than 70 years ago, but it's never been truer than it is today, when he said we can't always build the future for our youth, but we can build the youth for our future. Part of that is ensuring that they have social and emotional competencies to deal with an ever-changing world. And then the other view is from Nelson Mandela, who said education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. That's a core belief, certainly, that I have, my colleagues at CASEL have, I'm sure people in the audience, to think about how the education system can work with other systems to promote these positive outcomes in kids. And if we do this, the world will be a safer, happier place. Thank you.